Okay, thanks for joining us. So I am going to talk for a little bit about Firebase, which is something that we, as a company, as a tech company, use a lot in building mobile apps. But first, I just want to ask, do people here know about Firebase? Can you put your hand up if you've heard of Firebase? Awesome. Keep your hand up if you've used it. Okay, cool. Some of you. So let's go through what Firebase actually is. Well, Firebase, to start with, is a backend for mobile and web apps. It's as simple as that. So everything, every app that we create, pretty much, will do some or all of a number of things, like it will require authorization, so a login system. It may store data in the cloud. We may want to monitor. You're leaving already? We may want to monitor what the app is doing, monitor what the user is doing, monitor crashes, monitor the monetization of that app. We may want to send push notifications to people who are using it, or to certain groups of those people. And Firebase combines all of those things into a single technology. It's genuinely awesome. Firstly, it's totally cross-platform. So Android, iOS, web, everything that I'm going to talk about, bar some things that are just kind of very OS specific, will work on all of those three platforms. It's massively scalable, so you can build an app that works on that works with, you know, its first 100 users, and not change a single piece of code when you scale up to 10 million users. It has a very generous free allowance. So most of what I'm going to show you is available completely for free, certainly for the first few months of your app's life, and when it takes off, well, you don't really care about how much you're paying, because you're earning bucket loads from it, hopefully. And the idea of Firebase is basically everything that we used to have to write PHP, MySQL kind of code for, we now don't have to. So everything, every custom script that we used to create, every little bit here and there, Firebase just takes care of it for us. Which means that, as mobile app developers, all that we have to write is the client-side code, which is great for us because that's what we're good at. And genuinely, I think that this has reduced, switching to Firebase, which is something that we did in the last couple of years, has reduced the amount of time that it takes for us to deliver an app by about a third. So let's go into a bit more depth on what Firebase actually is. So it's one platform, but it's split into lots of different components. And generally, we use some, but not all of these components for any single app. We've never used them all, but I'll take you through some of what's available. So my talk today is going to be on Cloud Firestore and authentication. The Firestore is about storing data in the cloud. It's about storing searchable small amounts of data, so basically anything that you can store in JSON format. Authentication is about managing users sign up to your application. Firebase also provides hosting, so this is pretty basic, just what you used to be able to do as with the old kind of FTP style hosting containers, so you can host files in the cloud. Cloud storage is about large amounts of data. So it's storing pictures or big documents or something like that. So the difference between Firestore and cloud storage is the volume of data, plus the fact that the Firestore allows for searching and filtering based on parts of that data. The real-time database is the older version of Cloud Firestore. If we go into the middle, what Google calls improving app quality, well, that's about monitoring how your app is performing in the real world. So Crashlytics is a fantastic technology that tells you where your app is crashing, why it's crashing. It gives you stat traces in real time, and it allows you to fix things quickly. Performance monitoring, same kind of thing, but Test Lab is another fantastic, revolutionary technology that allows you to test your app on real, genuine devices that are hosted in Google's data center, and also virtual ones. So it will, I don't know if any of you guys have ever deployed an Android app before, but it will run it through Test Lab before you do so. So it will give you screenshots of where there are problems. So it'll say, okay, this label, for example, goes off the edge of the screen if you try and run it on a Samsung Galaxy S7. And you know, it provides automated testing in that way. But it also allows you to write scripts for your own testing, so you can try certain things out. Google Analytics is exactly the Google Analytics that everybody knows and loves from their own website, but that can be applied to mobile apps as well. So it will tell you where users are going within your app, where they're getting lost, where you can improve your route to the monetization. Cloud messaging is about sending push notifications, and you can group the people that are using your app into different sections, and you can send notifications to different people. And along with analytics, obviously, it's going to tell you how effective your push messaging is. Yeah, there's some other stuff here. App indexing is pretty cool because that allows you to sort of specify to Google what your app contains so that Google can search within it. So all of these, each one of these items is a whole series of lectures. I've only got 15 minutes, so I'm going to talk briefly on Firestore and authentication. Next session, we're going to talk in more detail about the cloud functions, which is being able to run code that's based on people hitting a URL or people adding certain data to the cloud Firestore. So it's triggering responses to that. We can obviously, I'm really keen to hear, genuinely keen to hear what people are interested in, what people are not interested in, and we'll tailor the whole series to what you guys actually want to hear. So, without further ado, we will go on to Firebase Auth. Now, pretty much every app that goes out there has some kind of login system. So anytime that you want to store users' data, you're going to need a login system. Firebase Auth is a way of combining lots of different potential auth providers. So at the moment it supports Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, and Google. Plus you can build your own authentication system using email password. Or if you want to go really in depth, you can pick another auth provider and you can build its own authentication tokens into it. Where previously we had to write, again, tons and tons of scripts, put them on a server, we are now just writing client-side code only. So everything that you see here can be built just with client-side code. Tiny little bit of setting up in the cloud, but otherwise just client-side code. And even the UI is taken care of by Firebase. So there's a package available on GitHub called Firebase Ui. It's available again for iOS, for Android, for web. And that provides all of these screens here. It provides a Facebook login, a Twitter login, GitHub login, etc., etc. And anything that you might want to do, any error condition that might appear, that is taken care of by Firebase Ui. It's as close as you possibly can get to a drag and drop style thing. Yeah, so one of the great things that Firebase Auth does for us is it links really neatly with the Cloud Firestore and the real-time database, which means that when a user logs in, we get their auth key, so it's generating a token for us, and it's using that token to store as an encryption, if you like, to store stuff in a database. So only that user is able to access that stuff. And those kind of access rules are built into all of Firebase, and all of these technologies are kind of interacting really nicely. Yeah, okay, so without wanting to alienate people who don't talk code, I'm going to put some code up. This is, as always with Firebase, the best examples are of how easy it is to work are when you look at the code. So this is a single piece of code that deals with creating a new user in Firebase Auth. So this is, my background is an Android developer. I put Android code up. There is equivalent for web, for iOS. So all we are doing is a create user with email and password. We pass in the email address and the password that the user has typed in. When that completes, we get a callback that says whether that was successful or whether it wasn't. And it's as simple as that. That is literally the only code that you have to put in order to deal with creating a new user. And again, all of the UI is taken care of by Firebase UI. You can, of course, customize every step of the way. So if you wanted to do more than this, if you wanted to actually go into real depth and create your own UIs and your own authorization systems, you can do that. But basically, you don't need to. It's all there, all in a box. And once a user has signed in, again, another really great piece of code here is once a user has signed in, you get this callback that will give you the user's name, email, whatever is available within the authentication system that they've chosen to log in with. So if they had chosen to sign in with Facebook, then you can get their photo URL. If they have chosen to sign in with email address and password, then we can get an email whether their email has been verified. And Firebase takes care of the whole verification system. You can customize the email templates that go out with it. It just does everything for you. Obviously, if you're from a web background, all of this comes in via promises. In Android and in Swift for iOS, it's standard callbacks. So that's a really brief tour through Firebase Auth. What I want to talk about now with that in mind is the Cloud Firestore. Now, Cloud Firestore is a new technology for Google. It came out only a couple of months ago. It's still in beta. Knowing how Google works, it's going to be in beta for the next 5 years. And it built on what was called real-time database, which was a real revolutionary technology. So Cloud Firestore is a NoSQL database. Do people know what that means? Okay, so it's essentially like SQL, but without all the SQL queries. It's a non-relational database. It is a real-time database, and this is the really cool part of it. Real-time database means that everything is synced between different users of the database, and you can get callbacks and you can get notified when a particular part of the database changes. That notification can occur, locally within your own app. So if you change a piece of data on one part of, on one form within Android, then it's going to appear automatically in the next page. But also, and most importantly, it's synced across the whole world. So if somebody adds a piece of data to a real-time database, then it's going to show up on somebody else's phone and on your phone. And there's a great example of Cloud Firestore being used as a chat app. All you have to do is post chat messages to a database, and then everybody who's in that chat room automatically gets those messages on their phone. Where it differs from its old real-time database counterpart is there is proper query support now. So whereas previously we couldn't do things like give me all the cities that have a population of 10,000 and are in this country, we would have to do one or the other and then sort everything else out locally. Now there's proper query support, so we can do multiple chain queries, and I'll show you some code to do that. It is, and this is where auth comes in, it is secured to the user's privilege. So the database comes with built-in rules that allows you to configure who is allowed access to what certain parts. So you can build parts of the database, or documents within the database is what they call it. You can build documents within the database that are only accessible to a particular, or the user that created them. You can build documents in the database that are readable to some users and writable to others, and you can build your own own security rules in a sort of JavaScript type language. It has offline support, which again is absolutely incredible within this world of massive synchronization. If you don't have access to the internet, you can choose to cache a part of the database. It will maintain that cache. You'll still be able to query certain parts of it, even if it's as if it were online. You can even write to the database when you are offline. And then when you come online, Cloud Firestore will just automatically sync it all up for you. So it's pretty. I think that's pretty exceptional part of it. And of course, it's scalable, reliable, economical, everything that you would hope for in something like this, and probably everything that everybody says is how these things work. So let's talk a little bit about how data is stored in this non-transactional NoSQL database. Google has kind of worked out their own language for this, and this language is different from the old real-time database. So you start with a document. This is a document, and this is a document. A document contains JSON-like data, so it's key value data. Document contains data. Documents sit inside a collection, and usually you would use a collection to store similar documents. Now, these two documents happen to have the same keys, so they all have a first, last, and born, but they don't have to. You can store whatever you like in whatever document, in whatever collection you like. And the benefit of that is just pure flexibility. So documents like this are stored in a container like that, and to give you more flexibility to add depth to the data, what you can do is store other collections inside documents. So here's a chat room example. We have a collection called rooms, in which there are two documents. There is a room A and a room B. Both of these represent different chat rooms. Inside of this document called room A, there is another collection called messages, in which we're going to store the messages that are posted to each of these chat rooms. Here's one message, another document. Here's another message, another document. So that's how the data is stored. So with that in mind, some code. So this is just to demonstrate how simple querying is on this stuff. So all we do is request a particular collection. So this DB thing here is an instance of a singleton, so you can get that wherever you are within your app. You request a particular collection, and then this where equal to is requesting documents within that collection that have this field and this value. So that's a query, and then .get gives you actions that query. And once that query has run, then you're passing in this on-complete listener that will provide the results back for you. So everything in Firebase is asynchronous. You kind of get used to that. So if the task was successful, if we managed to perform this this query, then we can print out the results of it. If it wasn't successful, then we can display an error message. So basically, our apps contain tons and tons of code that's just like this. We can go a little bit deeper with queries. So here's an example, a couple more examples. So cities where the state is CO, where the name is Denver. So that's a chained query with two requirements. Here is cities where state is CA, where population is less than 1 million. Go ahead.
Is that handled server-side now, or is that handled...
Yeah, it's all handled server-side now. So whereas in the olden days you used to have to perform one query locally, on the server, and then deal with all the data that comes through for your second and subsequent queries. Now you can chain all of these things and it's all run server-side. In fact, it's got a whole indexing system that every time it sees a new query, it goes, okay, I need to create an index for that. And it goes off and it creates an index, and then, because it knows these queries are going to be run multiple times in the same app. And it can, it just automatically speeds that up.
There's no cost to you on those indexes?
It's just, none at all. Yeah, that's right. And you can manage those indexes manually, but actually you don't have to. It just does it all for you. So yeah, there's two examples, and that where less than is something that was a little bit difficult in the old Firebase real-time database as well.
It's impossible.
Yes. So the real benefit, obviously, of Firebase's database is the real-time nature of it, and we haven't touched on that before. What we were doing just moments ago are queries on a particular set of data. But now what we're doing with this is, well, we want to know if a particular piece of data has changed, because that's what's interesting. That's what we want to display in our app. You know, when someone posts a new message to a chat room, we want to know about it. We don't want to have to keep querying for the data. It's really, really simple to do that. So where we just performed a single query before, this time we just do an add snapshot listener, the second line there, and every time a particular snapshot of the database changes, so you choose your subsection of the database, that's what you call your snapshot. Every time that snapshot changes, you are going to get posted a callback, here's what you can do with the data. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So Firebase database, real-time database. Yeah, now Cloud Firestore supports proper queries. So that's a really brief tour through two big parts of Firebase. I'm interested to know if you guys would like to do things like a code lab on some of this, or if there are particular areas of Firebase which would be of interest to you. And like I say, we'll tailor the series to you. Other than that, that's it. Any questions?
I like the cross-platformness of this. Do you have any experience of using that to create apps that perhaps capture video or media? We've certainly had challenges with web and iOS and Android for capturing and recording video content from users.
Yeah, it's video is particularly difficult, partly because of you need the real-time nature, and in fact the latency is really important, and also the sheer volume of the size of the files that it creates. Yeah, you can use Firebase for that. Obviously, Firebase Cloud Firestore isn't the right place for that kind of stuff. You store the metadata there, and then you can store the video somewhere else if you're storing it. In terms of actually streaming video, then I don't think Firebase quite is quite there yet. There are other technologies that we've used in the past, but yeah, it's something I think that they're looking at, because I spoke to Google developers on that exact subject a little while back.